So, welcome to School of Rock's inaugural Meet the Instructor event with our bass and keyboard instructor, Bryan Eng. Bryan, nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, great to have you. We're going to walk through background. I'll ask you some of the questions about how you got started in music, how you got started with bass, keyboards. I know you've been playing for a while. Give us some of those notable experiences, some bands and gigs and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, Talk about kind of what drove you into music, and then maybe we'll do some demos and show some of those chops. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go back and just sort of start at the beginning with, what got you into music when you started and how did you land on the bass?
So what got me into music was I was friends with a guy who played guitar, um, and I was interested in that really from the beginning. He taught me some songs, and he kind of suggested to me that I should pick up the bass, and I didn't really think much of it, but so I went out and bought one, and I really just got hooked on it. So he was kind of doing it, you know, so he could play in a band with a bass player.
You need
And
not another guitarist, right?
yeah, so he had his own reasons. But yeah, I ended up picking it up and I just fell in love with it. Yeah, started playing rock music.
Yeah. How old were you when you started playing?
I was about 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you started playing the bass right away. When did you start learning other instruments? I know you play keys as well. Is that just something you learned on the side as you were going, or was that a focused effort?
Yeah, I learned it a little bit later. I took piano lessons when I was younger, when I was like 9,
Okay.
um, but didn't really get into it until I started playing bass. And then later I understood the importance of playing keys and just for any musician. So when I was in college, I had to take piano. Um, like everyone does, you have to take piano as a second instrument
Yeah.
to study harmony. And so I picked it up that way. And then it's always been kind of like my second instrument, side instrument.
Yeah. Very cool. So tell us a little bit, about your musical interests, like what kind of stuff you like listening to and playing, if it's the same, if it's different.
So I'm really into pop music. Um, I like a lot of R&B stuff. Like I said, I started out playing rock, um, and that kind of branched out to, you know, uh, when I got interested in different styles. So I started listening to R&B, funk, um, and yeah, mainly pop stuff. But then, as I got older, I also got into jazz, mainly to study it, as study the harmonies and more from a technical aspect
Yeah.
than because I actually really like it a lot. But
Kind of push yourself as a musician to like learn, some more obscure time signatures, more phrasings,
yeah,
things that you don't get in rock and roll standards. So what will
yeah.
help. What if you had to pick your top 3 to 5 influences as a bassist, whether they be bassists or not, who would you say influences you playing the most?
With bassists, one of my favorite bassists is Flea. He's
Well deserved, absolutely.
yeah. So when I started out, he was probably my biggest influence. Another guy is a guy that I've taken lessons from for a long time.
Okay.
He's played with Victor Wooten. His name is
Oh,
Anthony Wellington.
okay.
Um, so I started taking lessons with him when I was about 15, and he really just opened up my mind. Uh, Not just technique or anything, but with theory too. I started um, really getting serious about music theory.
Yeah.
And then I say the last one. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brian. Right ahead.
I was gonna say the last one. Um, I think everyone would say Jocko. It's a big one, but one of the bass players that I think doesn't get as much credit is Jamerson. James Jamerson
Yeah.
um, was a really big influence on me also.
Very cool. Nice. So let's shift a little gears. You've been a playing musician for a number of years now, gigging musician. You've actually had an interesting background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you play, maybe where you started playing, some of the gigs that sort of stand out, and where your career has led you in terms of what you do now.
Yeah, so I started playing um, in I started playing in rock bands when I was in high school. There happened to be this one band who was really big in my high school, and they happened to not have a bass player. So I kind of tried to put myself out there and just so they would notice me. And luckily, I became friends with a drummer, and he said they had actually already just gotten a bass player, and then I met the drummer, and he was kind of like he heard me play and was like, "Oh, yeah, you sound good. We should get this guy." So they ended up canning the other bassist, and and
Your,
uh,
your friend from way back did you a really big solid by making you a bassist because they're so hard to find. I'm a
yeah,
drummer. I whenever I find a good bassist that I could just sit and play with like effortlessly, it's like magic. It's awesome. It's hard to
yeah, we're in demand. I mean, I think yeah, I mean it wasn't like that uncommon. It wasn't a coincidence that they didn't have a bass player.
find.
I think. So yeah, I started playing with them, and we ended up playing a lot of gigs, like just in the Maryland, Annapolis, DC area. Um, we did like a lot of local parties, and we did, like a lot of rock stuff, Foo Fighters, Nirvana, Chili Peppers. Um, we ended up playing Battle of the Bands, doing Maryland Hall. Um, we ended up doing like a show at the 9:30 Club. They were doing like a Battle of the Bands there, so that was like some of the cooler places
Yeah.
that I ended up playing with them. And then I kind of, once I went on to college, I kind of gave music a break for a little bit, and then was traveling, and then started getting back into playing with bands in Madrid, and then decided that I was gonna work on um, getting a job on a cruise ship. So then that's what I've been doing most recently.
Yeah.
I was
So
playing
that's
ships.
I think that's one of the more unique experiences in rock and roll is getting to play on a ship and kind of sailing the world and playing music to a bunch of vacationers at the same time. So,
Yeah,
on
it's
that all,
definitely.
what was it like? Was it fun? Was it challenging?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's interesting because you're playing a lot of different styles of music. It's not just rock. It's not just jazz. There's a lot of jazz. There's a lot of pop. Um, there's Latin, so you have to be very well versed. Um, but yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was, being able to travel, meet a lot of interesting people. It's great.
You guys learn new songs on the boat while you're going as a band? You get together to rehearse, have new tunes, or do you kind of come in with a stockpile of things you know how to play and just get at it?
Yeah, so for this band, I was in the show band. So for this, they would hire all of us individually, so we wouldn't even know each other when we got to the ship. Um, and then it's a really heavy reading gig. So basically, I'd say like 99% of the music that you're playing, you have to read, and and you're not always gonna have a lot of time to prepare it. So,
Are you sight
but
reading it in the performance, or are you reading it like the day before? You got a couple times, a couple peeks at it to learn your part, and then you get up and play
yeah, it's generally I had it the day before. A lot of times, they would give me the music, and I'd have a day to look over it. But I have had a few times where you literally just show up and they put the music in front of you. So it's never ideal, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's actually one of the things through School of Rock that we work on with our students. And is like you start with a song and you're learning a song, but one of the first things you have to do is sort of break that song down. So we start with like a song,
Right.
right? And the idea is like you may have to like as a professional musician, you may have to be given music and learn it like play that night.
Oh
So have
yeah.
those tools available to you to see a song. Okay, how do I digest it quickly? Know what I have to work on, practice those parts, then get up and play.
Yeah, definitely. And
As
just being familiar with common tunes too is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, yeah. Even some of the bands that you said you played. I mean, those are some of the core bands and songs that we teach through. Um,
Uh-huh.
there's such sort of core curriculum elements inherent in a lot of those rock and roll songs, and they're just so widely known. So, as a musician, once you learn them, you're learning skills, but you're already sort of building this repertoire of songs that you can play as well. As you get
Yeah.
out there, you know all these common songs and common things.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of it. Is just kind of getting familiar with that idiom, I guess you would say.
Yeah. So if you
Whatever
look
it's
back
called.
on your musical career, what would you say is your favorite gig, your favorite experience playing live? Do you have one?
My favorite experience playing live. Um, I mean, I really think back to when I was first playing with my friends in just local bands. I mean, I think the local gigs are some of the funnest. Like even gigs that weren't paid or anything, you just did because you loved it and you would get together with friends and you weren't thinking about it as a job. As I've gotten older, it's like, it becomes a job and you do it because you love it, but it's sometimes you can lose that motivation. Sometimes I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's nice sometimes when you play those gigs that you're not getting paid. It does remind you why you're out there
Yeah,
because literally just doing it for the love of playing and playing with other musicians.
definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, let's talk, a little bit about the bass. As I
Mhm.
said, I'm a drummer. I've had a kinship with bassists and the bass since I've been playing the drums for obvious reasons, formed that rhythm section. What I always sort of envied about the bass is it's sort of, in my opinion, and maybe you share this, maybe you don't, but it sits in between the instruments and that it can kind of sit and lay down some rhythm and really be foundational. But then, listening to people like Jocko and Muzz Skillings and Victor Wooten, these guys that just made that bass sing. And it wasn't about rhythm, it wasn't about laying down the beat, it was part of the melody. And it goes,
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to comment on that, if you agree with that, how you, as a bassist, have you experienced that? How do you kind of perceive it? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would just say, that's definitely true. I think starting out, I didn't really, I didn't understand all the possibilities of the bass. So when I picked it up, like, do you want a demo right now?
Yeah,
Just
I was gonna say, like, I know, we're talking a lot, but I'd love to just, as you're talking, give us some examples of what
yeah,
yeah, that'd be cool.
just for example, like I started out listening to Blink 182, and I really thought the bass was just, and that's fine. And like those are songs that I love, but I didn't realize that there were Victor Wootens out there. That there was I didn't know who Jocko was.
Yeah,
So when I heard that stuff, and I would hear Victor, I was like, it just opened up a whole new world. It was it was I mean just a great thing because
yeah,
what you start out thinking the instrument
yeah.
is really it doesn't even scratch the surface.
Yeah, it kind of shows you what he can do, right? Like you look at it, you watch someone play, you learn, okay, I can, walk a bass line, I can keep that rhythm, and all of a sudden, you didn't even know like these were other options, and he just kind of like separated from that methodology of just providing that backbone and just played. You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
So so yeah, it's part of the process that
Yeah.
yeah, you have to go through.
What other? I don't want to belabor the point with question after question. What other, things you want to talk about? Do you want to demo some other stuff? You want to talk about different styles of music? Give some examples of things as a teacher you might bring students through, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, some of the stuff that that I would work on in lessons is, I mean, I'm big on funk. I like stuff like that. So some of the stuff that I learned when I started taking lessons, that's kind of like the model I have, the curriculum. Um, I learned from a guy in a small town named Eric, and he showed me Chameleon. So stuff like that is another thing that, just listening to music in my home, um, like rock tunes, I didn't really know what else was out there. So that was an important thing for me, was to have someone who showed me, um, listen to Jocko. He was the one who said, listen to Jocko, listen to Victor. He showed me, standards that I have to play for work now. So the chicken.
Making the standard.
So yeah, stuff like that. I mean, and then just getting a little bit into the theory of it,
Yeah,
writing out what the chord progressions are and all of that. But it never seemed like it was, like sit down and you have to learn this. It was like, this is why it works. So this is the song, kind of like the method of school rock. You
yeah,
show the song, and then you know, you teach the theory because that's what makes it work and because it'll help you understand it better, you know?
About playing the right music for the song as a musician, right? Not just having the technical skill, but
Yeah.
listening to the other musicians, really playing something that's complementary that doesn't overpower. You know, there's a moment for the bass to shine, and there's a moment for the bass to sit back and let the guitars go. Same with the drums, right? It's listening to other musicians and learning to kind of know how to ebb and flow in that. I think that's really critical. That's one of the things that we focus on at School Rock, right? Because we're teaching through performance based, right? We want kids playing with other musicians the whole time.
Right. Yeah, and definitely how to play in a band. It's it's huge. I mean, you know, how many times have you played in a band where, you know, the guitarist or drummer is overplaying or playing something, not really listening? I think that's one of the biggest things is just having a good ear.
Yeah, just showing off some riff that they learned, but not really listening to it
Yeah.
appropriate
Yeah.
for the song we're playing. Right?
Yeah.
Never guilty of that myself. I swear.
Yeah. It definitely takes time. It's not something that, you know, you're gonna get right away. But I think it's one of those things that you learn at some point.
Yeah, it's part of
Comfortable
musicianship.
playing.
Is and that's for me as a drummer. You mentioned earlier you took a little break, and I've been playing for a long time, and I took moments of my life where I wasn't playing as actively, and a lot of that playing then sort of shifted to playing all by myself in a room at a kit. And my skills were getting better, but my ability to play with other musicians wasn't improving. It was fading because it's been so long. So that's been such a welcome change, is to have that experience again of listening to another musician. It's not just playing some funky beat. It's what are they doing? When are we about to change over? And almost communicating through it.
Yeah, definitely. And like they say, music is a language, so you know, you can't replace what playing with other people is by just playing in your room. You know, as much as I love to practice and do it on my own and study, you know, you can't replace playing in a band with anything. It's just something that you have to to do and experience.
Yeah,
And
you hit on it, right? It's its own language. I've played with people in other parts of the world, and we didn't speak the same language.
mhm.
I've witnessed it. Where people just come together on the streets. They don't know each other. One's playing a song, the other one knows it. They're tourist and resident in the city, and they just come together and do a duet. And it's
Oh,
just
yeah, definitely.
that language that just brings right
Yeah.
a question come through. I'm just going to shift gears a little bit. Kind of go into equipment a little bit. I noticed you're playing a five string. Um, any commentary on kind of the type of bass you like to play, whether you went from 4 to 5 and you explored any other options?
Yeah, so I started out playing a four string. The first bass I got was a Squire P bass. Um, it's a great bass. I still have it. Um,
Standard, right?
yeah, so it's a great, like, you know, really affordable starter pack you can get. Um, and that where was I going with this? Yeah, so I was playing the four string for a long time.
Yeah.
I did that. I started playing a Fender Jazz. That's I still have that bass. And then I don't know what led me to try a five string. I think I just kind of went out on a limb and just bought one. But then just ended up loving it. So right now I have this is a Marcus Miller model, Sire. But yeah, I don't know what it was about having the five string. A Fender guy, so there's the same. You know, it's very similar.
More versatile to have that extra string. Just allows you to kind of hit notes in a different spot, maybe without moving up and down the fretboard as much.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what it is exactly. I've heard, you know, when people start it, they don't really want to go back to the four string, but
Yeah.
you know, either one's fine, obviously.
Yeah. You know what? As a drummer, I would draw parallels. I mean, if I added another voice on my kit, right? I throw another cymbal up there, another drum. It gives me another option when I'm, creating music. It
Yeah,
would be hard for me to take it away.
yeah. And I remember my teacher saying that to me a long time ago with the five string because he's a five string player, and he said, um, you know, having this string is not a disadvantage. Like, there's no way it can be a disadvantage. The only thing I can think of is it'll ring when you're playing other stuff. So if you're not using it, you're playing something up high, you might get that B string to ring. That's easier, so you have to be more conscious of muting it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the thing. It all it does is give you more options. So
It's also interesting in you, and I think a lot of students are like that, especially when they start at a younger age. They start with a four string because really the only limitation is the physical size, right? And if you're a
right.
younger kid, getting your hand on those four bass strings actually could be difficult enough. So you start there, and then you grow a little bit, and then the five becomes easier.
Yeah, definitely. I think also it was branching out and listening to other styles of music. So when I got more into R&B, that was something that I started hearing when I started hearing like those low notes.
Yeah,
And it was something that I wanted to actually, be able to get and incorporate into my playing. And that was something earlier on that I didn't really, I was listening to Flea and other four-string players, so
yeah,
I didn't really think of it.
yeah. Different styles of music, they have different requirements, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Another question about equipment coming in. So we got some bassists listening. Have you ever played a fretless bass?
I have, yeah. I never got really into it, um, but I mean, I've listened to it a lot more than I've actually played it.
Yeah.
Obviously with Jocko, but but every time I played it, I've loved it. I just don't think I could, I wouldn't do it on a gig because I, because I,
Practice a few times first before you break it out on stage.
yeah. Um, but yeah, they're great.
Yeah. So, what other musical aspirations do you have? I mean, we're hoping cruise ships start up again. I know that's something you enjoy doing. What do you think your musical career looks like? Are you looking to become a recording artist ever? You have your own music you're working on, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, well, like you said, ships is a big one. That's something that I feel like I at least want to explore more because it's a good opportunity.
Hmm.
I think, with the quarantine, I think I've had a lot of time to think about other, things that I would want to do musically. One of the things I've thought about has been teaching, which I've done, um, and I really love, but I want to, I see that as something that I could do in the long term, and that I really enjoy doing, and something that
Yeah.
um, has a lot of meaning. Um, and yeah, about recording my own music too. I've thought about that. Um, doing, like different bass versions of of pop songs.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'd like to do more recording. So
Yeah. Very cool.
yeah. And
Um, you want to go through a couple demos? I'd love to hear a little bit of just playing. You want to do some? You can even kind of go through like a progression, walk us through like stages of your musical career. Like this is where I started. This is how I've moved through it. Whatever kind of format you think makes sense.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, so like I said, when I was going back and thinking about the beginnings, because I knew we were going to talk about, um, how I got started on the instrument. I was thinking about some of the early bass lines that got me into the instrument. And
Yeah.
like I said, I was really into Blink 182, and there was one song that I heard that stuck out to me, and I was like, wow, that's a bass. I couldn't believe that it was a song called Carousel. So that
Yeah.
was one that when I heard it was like he was playing a guitar. So
Yeah. Completely. That's like total melody, right? You don't
mhm,
even feel like that's a bass when you're playing at the higher end of the register.
yeah, so he picks it. Um,
Oh, really?
I thought in the beginning I thought you had to play with a pick. Uh, so, but yeah, that was one of the ones that like yeah, kind of opened up my eyes. I was like, wow, I didn't know a bass could do that. And then I got into like a little bit of older rock stuff. So like I would listen to a lot of Led Zeppelin. There was one song, Black Sabbath, called NIB that was one of the ones I started on. Yeah, so stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
just kind of looking up, listening to, and then I started using Tab in the beginning. I didn't know how else to learn stuff. I didn't know how to read music.
Yeah.
So those are some of the earlier lines. Then um, I got into thumping a little bit. When I
Right.
started getting into the Chili Peppers. So I started listening to stuff like Rage Against the Machine. I think It's called "Take the Power Back" was one that
Yeah.
uh, so stuff
Rage,
like that.
Rage is one of
Um,
my favorites. It's just that pure aggression and rock and roll combined with a little hip hop and a little funk, like all rolled up into one. And um, one of those like truly unique bands that came along and just like had to stop and listen.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things it did too was um, kind of made you made you aware of other styles
Yeah,
because they incorporated stuff like rap and funk. So that was one of the things before I got into the Chili Peppers. That was one of the things that I heard in Rage. I didn't realize at the time I was listening to like funk bass lines, but like this one,
bomb track, right?
yeah.
I want to play the beat. Sorry, we're coming.
If we could, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's it's great. It's and I've always been into music that like mixes a lot of genres. Band out of LA that I loved for a long time is called Ozo Motley. Similar band, like it was like
uh,
rap and Latin and funk, like all mixed into one.
yeah.
And it's
Um,
things like that as a musician you're exposed to. It teaches you that you can play something different than you ever thought of, right?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I remember my teacher saying that that's how music evolves,
Hmm.
is when you're blending different styles. You know,
Yeah,
that's why that's why I think why I was such a big Chili Peppers fan was because it was funky and I didn't realize it. Like it was still rock, you
yeah.
know, but it was funky and I didn't like I said I didn't realize it at the time. So when I was listening to Flea, that opened up a lot of stuff,
It's
a
really
lot
what
of ideas.
changes music from like rock is the bass line. Like, if you take away the Flea bass line from a Chili Pepper song and put something more standard in there, and it becomes a traditional rock song.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and some of their songs, like I think on "By the Way," that you know, there's not as much funk stuff. It's more John Frusciante doing his thing. It
Yeah,
has a completely different feel.
yeah.
Still great. I love it. But but even I mean, Flea even has. I like his melodic lines the best. I think he's so known for you know the early stuff he did with. I mean that's such a great bass line. The solo that he does on that song, but he has melodic stuff that is even better. It's so musical, you know. So
Yeah.
he gets a lot of attention for all that flashy, you know, thumping. But
Yeah, but he's a great musician underlying it. Like, you can
yeah,
tell, like you said, when he plays some of the softer stuff, and you really hear the musicality that comes out of it. Like,
definitely.
he's just
Yeah,
really good at slapping the bass.
yeah. Is another thing about the lessons that you know I when I first started I that's what I really was drawn to. It was one of the things you know you start playing you want to do all that flashy stuff you want to do. But you know I think I had to have a teacher that was kind of like yeah all that stuff is great and we're gonna learn it and I'll show you how to do it. But there's this other stuff that you also need to know,
Yeah,
which is theory and playing melodically.
yeah.
So
No, it's a really good point. I mean, we actually deal with that a lot with our students, where a kid comes in, he's a metalhead, just wants to learn metal, or he loves contemporary. That's it. And there's value in playing what you love, but there's a tremendous amount of value in branching out and
yeah,
finding other genres. It teaches you whole new skills, and yeah, no, it's really important. So we try to push our students to kind of flex those boundaries, pick up this one song, just explore what the bass is like on that, and then they're all open up, and now they're not so closed into one genre anymore. It's just the value.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So what other topics you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to talk about specifically? You want to just jam a little? I mean, we're kind of getting to that point in the time where we could probably just let you play a little. And I had one request for Inagata Davida, but I'm not going to honor it.
What's that?
I had a request for Inagata Davida. I get that.
Yeah, I can't do that.
That's
Yeah, it's up to you. I don't know how we're doing on time, but
We're doing okay. I don't. We have plenty of time for you to play. but kind of Q&A portion. I think we covered most of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about. If there's other stuff you want to share, I'd love to go into it. But if you feel like playing, that's cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I can play a little bit. I don't know
Yeah, I know.
if
Bass
it'll.
solo and drum solo. Everyone's gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah. It's not gonna be an hour, a half hour, but yeah, I
That's
can play a little bit. Um, this is just some of the stuff that I kind of do on my own.
yeah.
Um, that you.
We were talking yesterday. I don't know if you want to do this or not. If you had, I don't know if you have it prepared or not. So if you don't, that's cool. But like loops that you would make, sit down
Yeah,
and create a loop, and then now you play along. Things
yeah,
like
yeah. So I can kind of talk and walk you through it too.
yeah,
Um, so one of the things I like doing on bass, because you can, is playing chords. So that's one of the things that I like to do just to understand the harmony better. And because it sounds good, it works. So I might create a loop. I might start out with the bass line sometimes, so I can get a lot of parts of the song. So if I just take that progression, I can do. So now I have that looped. I can play the harmony.
that's
So I can do that, and then so I can play. Now I can just play over it. So one of the things I work on a lot is soloing. Since you're a bass player, you're not just limited to playing the bass line. In the beginning, yeah, that's the most important thing for you because it's what's going to get you paid. But bass players can also solo.
once you get the gig, you gotta be ready for that.
Yeah, if you want a gig, you got to play the bass line first. So I can add lines to it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can harmonize.
That was cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah, so
Like,
that's just something you can do that's fun to
yeah,
create stuff on your own. Um, and the point, well, the point for me is that you don't have to just be playing the bass. You know, you can solo, you can do the drum part too. I didn't do that. But you can just as easily create a beat
yeah,
on it.
yeah.
So for me, I just did the bass line. I did the chords, and then just was just improvising over it. So it's a
Yeah.
fun thing you can do.
Just real quick, sort of follow up question on my own, sort of the people that are new to music, technology wise. How did you do that? Like when you create the loop, you play the little thing, you looped it. What technology you're using to get that done? That you could do that and then instantly just be playing right over it.
Yeah, so I have an RC20XL loop station, um, and by Boss, and I can show it to you if I.
Maybe it's not too much trouble. I was just curious because it was so effortless. You literally said, "I'm going to play this little, sort of the harmony part," and then you just laid it down. It was playing in the background. It was so nice. It
Yeah,
wasn't a lot of click.
it's really nothing that's complicated.
Yeah,
So there's a bunch of different models.
yeah,
This is the one that I've been using for years.
cool.
Um, I don't use it much when I practice,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean the concept is simple enough. You can create a loop. I think you can create I don't know how many different times you can write over it, you know, record a section over it. It's a lot. I've never run short on that. Um,
Pedal just
but yeah,
in and out kind of thing. You just mark when you play, and that's it.
yeah. So you just hold down the pedal. So you can just tap it once on the left pedal.
Yeah.
That's record. When you're done, so when you get to the end, when you get to the end of the phrase, you'll tap it again. Um, I'll show you. So that would be this pedal. If you want to erase it, so I did that once. There was something I didn't like. You can hold this down, the other pedal, and it'll erase it. Um, and then, yeah, that's pretty much it. You can save them if you want.
Yeah.
Um, there's other there's other features on here. Um, there's like a reverse setting, makes it sound all trippy and psychedelic. I use that one.
Did you create?
What's that?
Did you play it and then it runs the whole audio in reverse?
Yeah, so it plays it backwards, like on some of the '60s recordings that
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what it was at the time, but
Yeah.
yeah. So and then it has one of the things I like about it is the fade out feature that I did. So for stuff like this, if you're playing in front of people, that's a nice effect, a nice way to end it is to just fade out instead of just stopping it all at once.
You kind of fade. You're playing over it. Kind of
Yeah.
so this was really a lot of fun. I don't want to keep you all day. I know you got other things going on. But this was great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Hope
It was,
everyone enjoyed meeting you.
yeah.
For those that are interested in taking lessons with Bryan, teaching basic keyboards at School Rock West Hartford, reach out to us, Facebook or any social media. Email us at westhartford@schoolrock.com. Anything else you want to say as we say goodbye, Brian?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah,
Awesome, man.
I'm excited to teach. So, yeah,
Yeah, we're glad to have you as one of our instructors. You've been awesome. The students that have you love you, and
appreciate that.
nothing but up from here. So awesome, man. Thanks, and thanks everyone for tuning in. And we'll talk to you all soon.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Take
See
care.
ya.